Ho, 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 you
What did you call me?
Elves. It's good to see everybody. Welcome. We're simply having a wonderful Christmas time. Rob's checking out the mistletoe hanging above his head.
Well,
There could be kissing. There could be some beard-on-beard action. You never know. I'm excited. This is pro wrestling. This is Gary Horde. And that's Hey, It's Will over there. Hey, it's Will.
Hey.
And the doctor, he's going to analyze Santa Claus's trajectory into our hearts and minds this holiday season. Dr. Rob Stinson. Hello, Rob.
What's up, everybody?
Oh, man. So how you guys feeling today? You feeling pretty good?
Oh,
Okay,
man,
good.
yeah. You know, tomorrow's Christmas Eve, and we're, I bought my last gift today, so I didn't wait till Christmas Eve this year, so it's a baby step, but yeah, it feels good.
Yeah. So, Rob, you got the kids too hanging around. Does it feel Christmassy in your household?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, man. It feels Christmassy. We've got Tanya working a litany of third shifts this week, heading up into Christmas Eve. Tonight's her last one, so I've pretty much just been me with the kids so far this week. What we've done, we went around last night, took the old Jeep out and looked at Christmas lights, and went to Rock City's Enchanted Gardens of Lights to see the real Santa Claus. NWA Santa Claus.
The real world's Santa Claus.
No flex zone. No flex. But Rob over here flexing with the real Santa Claus. He's down in Georgia.
Doggone Gary up here wearing that UWN Santa Claus hat.
Santa Claus. I'm not really sure what you're going for there, Rob, but happy to say. You can call me Gentleman Gary here. Gentleman Jervis was on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood this past weekend. It made me think of our feud and regretted everything. All right. Well, a lot of stuff's already happened this week. It's been a big weekend wrestling so far. Last time you saw us was probably at TLC, WWE TLC, where Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns both retained their world championships, and Randy Orton set a man on fire. Like
classic WWE pay-per-view.
Just tried to kill him. And I don't know if you guys saw Raw, but I did post the fast count. And on the fast count, I mentioned how they started that show off even talking about how Randy Orton set a man on fire. Even in Randy Orton's promo, he discussed how if he closed his eyes, he could still smell it, the burning flesh. He could hear the last gasps of his breath. And I'm like, wow, they are leaning into this. Like they are just not letting it up. Like you'd think they'd just be like, no, somebody came out with fire extinguishers right out. Nope. I tried to kill him. I tried to murder him. I think I did. And everything's okay now in the WWE. Just weird stuff. Weird stuff.
Hopefully he can get Tommy Dreamer, though, to represent him or something and get him acquitted. Because you can do that. You can do that. You can be acquitted of attempted murder or murder, I guess.
Yeah.
The old classic acquittal versus life in prison match stipulation.
Well, they had similar stuff, like when the Big Boss Man took on the Mountie. They had somebody has to stay overnight in prison. That's probably pretty similar. But Merry Christmas, everybody. It's good to be here. The Fiend roasting on an open fire.
Oh boy, how long have you been waiting to say that?
Do you know that I just thought of that literally just now? I promise. Had not thought of that beforehand. I was just sitting here and was going to say hello to our friends in the chat, and then for some reason that song just came into my mind, and I thought, oh, what's been burning lately? The Fiend. We're talking about it right now. Perfect timing. I'm not always perfect on my comedic timing. But today I am on fire. Look at that. I did it again, I think, technically. See what I did there?
What are you in a match against Randy Orton?
You about to get roasted, bro. You better eat. You might about to get roasted.
Oh my God. If you missed it on Raw, what did happen with Randy Orton, just I don't know why I'm talking about it, but hell, this is what we're here for, right? So Randy Orton does come out and say all that stuff, and then the lights go out, and Alexa Bliss appears in the ring swinging on a swing set that she says Bray built for her. And she says, "Were you expecting someone else? He's around, you know." And she's like, "I hope he's not. He could be anywhere. He could be at a tanning salon. He was looking kind of pale." She was like, I hope he's not at the beach where he might get sunburned." And then also he could be at a restaurant getting his favorite food, barbecue. And they just joked around about it. But basically, she just told Randy Orton that he went back home. And if he ever decides to leave home and come back again, it'll be unlike nothing you've ever seen before. So there you go. So
wow,
that's the story of the Fiend.
Man,
what a tale! What a tale!
I was really hoping that would spark a lot of conversation, guys, but it doesn't seem like it's going to.
Well, the topic itself is rather incendiary. So I don't, I mean, emulation.
I don't really have any burning questions.
Yeah, this is stupid. Anyway, we've been worried about the WWE creative team up until now, and it turns out where there's smoke, there's fire.
Well, I did find out, in case you guys didn't know, that match was not filmed live. It was filmed earlier in the day, and they redid a bunch of those spots, like the rocking chair spot, that kind of stuff. And apparently there were people with fire extinguishers like right off camera the entire time. So at least they were trying to be safe. And then obviously that was not Bray Wyatt in the ring. That was a mannequin or a dummy or something. But
a Bray Wyatt stand-in. They couldn't burn the actual Bray Wyatt. They burned another man.
Yeah, it was another
Send me your most expendable man.
It was Vince's least favorite member of the writing team.
The show, by the way,
how do you pick just one?
And beef jerky.
Hey, welcome.
Bacon burnt flavor.
Yeah,
bacon burnt flavor.
That's fitting. We don't have to, belabor this whole point, but I am bummed that they're like doubling down on this. I mean, they're probably going to have him come out scarier than ever or something like that. I don't know, but I mean, the Fiend was such a promising character when he first came out. I mean, I was like revitalized in my interest of WWE. I was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be great. And then of course they ruined him. Now they've killed him. Then he's going to come back. It's just, yeah, it's the same old song and dance conversation we always have about, stretching the bounds of reality. There's a certain limit, and they really, really crossed it. So,
I totally agree.
Excellent point, man. That was made in the in this month's issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I'm trying to find the direct quote, but it was something along the lines of, and it was talking about it wasn't using this particular scenario as the impetus. It was talking about the wedding and Impact, the Johnny Bravo scenario. And he makes a great point. And this author is, just to give him props, is Harry Burkett, who authors the Ringside column in PWI. And he makes a point which is worth noting. He says, here's my bottom line analysis about comedy and wrestling. And I guess in the word comedy, you could fill in the blank for, implausibility and other things. But he says, here's my bottom line. Characters can be funny and wrestling can be witty, but the premise shouldn't be ridiculous. So I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Things should be funny. There's a place for that. Things can be horrifying. Things can be scary, but the premise of it should not be completely implausible to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. I was saying it in the fast count. Actually, I was talking about the Undertaker. It always felt like at least you could. A lot of times, it felt like you could chalk it up to like reputation, like he's the dead man in rep. Like that's just what people think of him because he's so unstoppable. Now I know he still did some things we could probably disagree on, like on, you know, that went outside of those boundaries. But for the most part, I don't know. There was like another line that was crossed. Even with the Kane Inferno matches, it was like they set an arm on fire or something. There was something totally different about this one when the fire's all around, like 30 feet away from the people, and you throw them into the barrier and the flames shoot up. You know, at least in the old ones, they were like around the ring, and so it felt like somebody hit the mat and it like made them puff up a little bit. Now it's like very clearly somebody sitting in the back with like a button, and they're just like hitting the button to make it go. And then it's just like all of that just like takes away from the fact that like, yeah, man, there's a dude that we're going to kill here tonight. And if you're just joining us, not on the show, we're talking about TLC. So a little bit safer. If I could throw in good news about WWE though, I do want to give them a shout out really quickly. Just before we went on the air, I was checking the email for the show, and it turns out Rob did a War Games retrospective, and WWE had the video pulled, and because it had some clips from War Games, I disputed those, and I just received word WWE has released their claim on those videos, and we had
did it.
So
we did it, y'all. We did it.
We beat Vince.
We went up against the Giant and we won. We won, Vince. Or he was just nice enough not to pursue it further, basically. He was just,
His pocket.
there's always a prize, pal. Dude, set Will on fire.
He's got bigger wrestlers to fry, or fish to fry, I guess, right now.
Yeah, I saw something today in the news. I didn't really take it down, but like where Keith Lee was copywriting his name because WWE was also trying to copyright his name, and very, very interesting stuff. But anyway, so a lot of shows have already happened. Obviously, Monday Night Raw has happened. We've seen Impact has happened. Ring of Honor has happened. AEW Dark has happened. Tonight, we've got AEW Dynamite and NXT to look forward to. It's going to be kind of interesting to see because NXT, I think, is at its normal time, but AEW Dynamite is pushed back based on the is it the NBA championship game?
NBA.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a championship. I think it's like it's something. Yeah, I don't know, something NBA. So, some sports fans in the chat can let us know.
Obviously, I'm not a basketballer myself.
You're not a sportsist?
Nope, apparently not. But anyway, so there's a lot to talk about in the wrestling world, and we're glad that you all are here. Thanks for joining us, Willie and Woodland and Ryan and James and Rosville and Wrestling with the MMA always, and Neil, everybody who's here, Alex Taylor, thanks so much, John Ware for being here as well. Just glad anybody can join us. If you're watching for the first time and you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button because it just gets us in front of more people. Because when YouTube says, man, somebody might like these guys, then it starts showing us to more because it's like maybe somebody else will actually like them. And it's weird because right now it's just us and our wives. That's the only people that care about us. So, and Rob seemed unsure about that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we'll see.
Anyway, I was in the email to see about a potential new sponsor that we have, but since I don't have a confirmation of that quite yet, we'll hold off on it. But we could jump into some other news. I don't know if you guys had some like particular matches you thought were amazing this week so far, or we could just.
Well, I want to start off. So Willie Bowen commenting here, show some love for NWA Shockwave. Yeah, I'll join you in that. I spent probably more time on Facebook this week than anybody should have, and more than I usually do. And it was just amazing to me how in a lot of the NWA groups on Facebook, people were just like pissed off about it. And I think we've said it before, but just to set the record straight right up here at the top of the show, NWA Shockwave, whether the matches happened before or not, is a great thing for the National Wrestling Alliance. If you are an NWA fan, you should be happy whether you saw these matches on Primetime Live or not, because a couple reasons. One thing Jay Cal pointed out is that it's generated a lot of buzz and interest in their YouTube channel. Guys, you got to realize that like a lot of us that are in this group, we're kind of core fans. We got Primetime Live. We followed it. We watched those matches as they happened. A lot of people did not. And so this is putting those matches in front of more people. So we're getting more NWA coverage in front of more eyeballs, more interaction, more publicity. It's a great thing. So, just to set the record straight right up front, NWA Shockwave, which that was the season finale, I believe. So we'll see if they pull some other stuff together for another season. But a nice quick run and a great way to take some of those quality matches, package them for NWA and put them on that channel. And yeah, man, nothing but good things to say about it. So if you guys see people out there, trashing it just because it was matches that already happened, set them straight. Let's the NWA fam represent, and let's let them know, hey, this is a good thing for the NWA, and we're going to support it. So yeah, thanks, Willie Bone. I joined you on that one.
For sure. And even those of us who subscribe to UWN Primetime Live, we're still getting content we've not seen yet. In this episode, we got a gem of a match between Nick Aldis and Jordan Clearwater that we had not seen. And it was a good match. It was not a title match, but it's okay to see the Real World's champ in action is always a treat. There's a lot of mutual respect between the two shown. Handshakes before and after, and it was a gem. I mean, I'm not going to say it was Aldis and Marty Scurll, but it was nice to see some activity. Nice to see that there's very little ring rest on the champion. Of course, we know that because we've seen him up close against Brian Pillman Jr. and we've seen him in action against Bennett and some other guys here of late. But on each episode, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but on every episode there have been matches that we've not yet seen, and then you're getting some really good highlights. Like I think the last 2 weeks we got to see some of the epic dialogue of Elijah Burke, the Pope, some of his great speeches, some great oratory that we're getting to experience. These are the speeches that you'll be telling your kids about, in 15 years from now, like we did about Dusty Rhodes and so forth. So it's cool. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And it was cool to see Jordan Clearwater, actually, because since that match on Primetime Live, I mean, Jordan Clearwater is obviously he stepped up his game, actually. He was just on this past episode of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood defending his Heritage title against Will Allday. And it was I was writing down my notes thinking about doing a fast count on it, because actually this week's Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is very good. It's full of some really good matches, and that was one of them. So I guess where I was going is Jordan Clearwater is the current Hollywood Heritage champion for United Wrestling Network now. So that's all since that matchup took place. But J Cal, Will, you mentioned J Cal. The Alliance blog has done some deeper diving in that than we have, and shown that like the numbers reflect that it's like really boosting the exposure for the channel, which is cool since they've had some time off. And also that, based on the numbers, apparently there's a lot of people that did not see, Primetime Live and did not get a chance to see these matches. So, some of us that are diehards probably did see these matches, but it's worth noting that maybe this is just getting them in front of a ton more people that didn't have a chance to see them the first time around. And so this is all still new stuff for them. So it's probably exciting for them to see these matchups and at least get a taste of their favorite professional wrestlers. So I look at it as all around a good thing. And hopefully here in 2021, we'll have some news on some brand new stuff that we can all enjoy. But for now, I mean, if you were complaining about there not being anything and you're complaining about Shockwave existing right now, then that just seems really counterintuitive. So I'm not really sure what you're looking for. I mean, I know we're all looking for power to come back. I get it. But for now, at least there's momentum, there's movement, something's happening. That's how I look at Shockwave.
Yeah, and that was one thing, that we were critical of publicly for a little while was, we understood that they were pausing and they were restructuring and doing stuff like that. But, they were silent on social media for months and nothing happening on that YouTube channel until Primetime Live and the reemergence of 10 Pounds of Gold and the build up to that with Mike Bennett. So, the Twitter account is active. It's alive and going. They're doing a great job with that. I'm not sure who's managing it, but whoever it is doing great. They're, pushing Shockwave, but they're also, putting links to past episodes of Power that will have a tie back. So there's a lot of effort being put into NWA content right now. And just because they're not in a position where they have studio time and they're creating new storylines and new matches, we should all be excited as the NWA fam that there's movement and that there's visibility and that there's things happening. We've been wanting this for a long time. So it seems a little nitpicky to me. So I just wanted to get that out, let everybody know, hey, we might not be called This Is the NWA Podcast anymore as our official name, but we're the NWA fam, and that's what we're looking for. And so we're always going to put that kind of prominently first in the front of our mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, if you're looking for professional wrestling while you're taking a breather from the NWA, I mean, there is plenty to go around. So you are not hurting for options as far as pro wrestling goes. My personal favorite, I was saying this in our Discord today, which you should be a part of. I finally decided today when I was catching up on everything that Ring of Honor is my favorite wrestling show to watch. Like, it just is right now. And I would say that up against almost everything. It's just pound for pound, I guess is the way to put it. It is, to me, the coolest wrestling show. AEW Dynamite has a lot of stuff I love. AEW Dark has some great stuff. But Ring of Honor, every single week, 100% of the show is intriguing to me. It's enthralling. And so, there might be stuff I like better or worse here on AEW or NXT or whatever, but I have to say, Ring of Honor has just been killing it this week, no exception. Like, they just built up these matches with these guys that I've literally never seen a Dalton Castle match in my life. And I'd heard of him, but this was my first experience with Dalton Castle, and I was sold. I was like, I love that dude. That guy's great. Yep. And so I could see why I had heard of him, not paying attention to Ring of Honor. His name still leaked out there into the ether. So anyway, I don't know about you guys, but the Ring of Honor is my go-to out of
absolutely. Right. If you told me right now, okay, there's no NWA Power, you can only watch one wrestling show, pick one, I would pick Ring of Honor, even though it's only an hour, maybe because it's only an hour, because they do such a good job of putting stories in there. And man, those promos, it's already slipped my mind, but the guy that Dalton Castle had his match against.
I had the
Brian Johnson
on the show, or Brian Johnson, who's
Brian Johnson,
like man in the roster.
The what?
He's the least polite man,
dude.
He was voted.
His video.
They put their stats up there, man. They put the stats up before each match, and not on the Ring of Honor episode 483 match, but on Final Battle, as Brian Johnson's coming to the ring. And by the way, I like him too. He's really compelling as well.
No, but man, his opening package was great.
Yeah.
His one of his stats was in 2019, he was voted the least liked man in the ROH locker room. So I was like, he's just a mean and nasty dude, man. Angry.
Yeah, you could get that out of him, because like that, I had never seen him before either, by the way, and I wasn't sure like where he stood, but I was checking out the results from Final Battle, and I saw he lost there, and he lost. Well, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, I guess. But he lost on Monday at Ring of Honor against Dalton Castle, and it was disappointing because his opening thing was great. I think both of them were coming off a loss, and so they were trying to pick up from that. And but with him talking about Dalton Castle and everybody else, he was like, this place is constantly pushing all these things they did do, or all these things they used to do, and all these what guys used to be. And he's like, I'm sick of hearing about that. I'm sick about hearing about who used to be here. He's like, I'm trying to do something right now. I'm trying to do things here. And it was a great promotional. That's the thing, man. I've seen Rhett Titus. Rhett Titus was at Crockett Cup. Rhett Titus was in that opening battle royal. I never knew much about Rhett Titus, but here he is facing Delirious, who's another guy I knew of. I don't know, his deep history or anything like that, or every match he's ever been in, but they built that match in such a way that by the time it got to it, I felt like just as much a part of it as I think anybody could have. Like that these two guys have history. There's a story here. This is an epic battle. Like these two guys have something to prove against each other. And it drives me crazy because it's like, wow, if you just spit like 10 minutes before a match or something, like you can make every match just a beast. Like these guys throw on 2 matches a show. In that hour, you get 2 matches. But you leave every show like, dang, that was good stuff. Like, and it's building up everybody on that roster. Like, I'm starting to remember the names of every single person that's a part of Ring of Honor and giving a damn about who they are. So anyway, I could go all day, but I see Rosville bringing up Pure a lot in there too. And that's another aspect of Ring of Honor that I love. For me personally, I try to look at it objectively, and I don't know that could work full time, but you almost like, there's a part of me that's like, man, back to that Dusty Rhodes quote we've mentioned before. You could be good, you could be bad, you could be different. Ring of Honor does different anyway, but the Pure thing, I'm just like, will that work for everybody? I don't know, but it really mixes the MMA and the professional wrestling aspect of things, and there's something cool about having those. To me, like the extra rules, the rope breaks, the how many closed fists, that kind of thing. It's intriguing, man. It's fun.
I agree. Outside of the NWA, obviously, our meta promotion, and Mission Pro, which doesn't run a regular television show, but I think there are discussions about doing that with Thunder Rosa and her cohort down there in San Antonio, Texas. Ring of Honor is the best weekly production out there, in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some good things out there on NXT. I'm a big Tommaso Ciampa fan, become a big fan of his. Obviously, with some of the stuff, I think AEW Dark was phenomenal last night. We had 6 Mission Pro alumnus represented. Thunder Rosa, Jasmine Allure, Red Velvet, Vert Vixen, Alex Gracia, and Maddie Rinkowski. I mean, you've got some bright spots all over the spectrum. I happen to be able to host a debate or moderate a debate yesterday. It's actually up. I've retweeted it. It's from Mixed Tag, their podcast. And the debate was who has the better outside of the NWA, because it's the NWA is different. It's a meta promotion. That's what I mean by that. But I moderated this debate, and the proponents in both sides, or the opponents, were arguing for which had the better roster, NXT or AEW. And I came on the debate and I said, well, I'm moderating because I don't have a stake in this. Obviously, your rosters, however thin it is rated by the top dog. And for me, the real champion is Nick Aldis and Serena Deeb, and everybody else is playing second fiddle. With that being said, who's best on Wednesday night? And they had a fantastic debate. You guys can go back and follow. But looking at the Ring of Honor roster, gosh, man, there's matches up really well, too. I mean, you've got, like you said, Dalton Castle, former Ring of Honor champion. You've got Brian Johnson, who's just a lot of fun to watch. Rhett Titus. You've got Delirious, who runs the Ring of Honor dojo, who produces ROH TV. He's wrestled in Chikara Pro. He's got a, big-time background. The Foundation, Gresham and Jay Lethal, and then what are the other 2 Foundation guys? Come on, the names escape me at the moment. Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus. Yeah. They have this sense of like, hey, they're fighting for honor, but you can easily see how this might turn into, because Gary, to your point that this can't happen all the time, or it might not always work. I could see how the Foundation that are saying, hey, we're not going to defend the tag titles on anything but other than pure rules. You can see how over time they might become sort of heelish, how they might become like the Empire, that's motivated by a certain principle that becomes oppressive, almost Gestapo-like. And they could easily become, bad guys. I mean, you can even look like Tracy Williams, who is so good, such a technical wrestler. You can see how he's got sort of a mean streak in him too. And even though they're upholding the pure code and the Ring of Honor code of honor and all that, you can see how this might eventually become a tool of power itself. It's a sort of like back in WCW days and standards and practices and those kind of organizations. So you can see how this might feed a storyline later. But I'm with you, man. I think to the extent that we can imitate or present a competitive sport, a simulated sport, those pure rules are fantastic. And I even messaged Will a couple days ago saying, hey man, you got to check out this tag team rules, this pure tag team rules match. It's fire, dude. You're going to, as a tag team, like purist, no pun intended, you're going to love it. And I bet he did. So anyway, good stuff. Ring of Honor, lots of good stuff out there right now. Ring of Honor is among the best for sure.
Yeah. I mean, to the idea of transitioning all of Ring of Honor to pure matches, I would definitely watch that. That would definitely make the entire promotion different. But I do like, and I think a couple people are mentioning in the chat, but I do like how they can use it to change it up. Like you're saying, Rob, saying, okay, we'll do this, but it's pure rules. And I think Scooby in the chat mentioning, he likes how some of the guys have to adjust to those rules, which makes it kind of that added layer of competitiveness. Okay, how is this person going to do in a pure rules match? So I like them being able to leverage that as like an add-on in some of these matches. And if that was kind of the standard across the board, I think that it would lose some of that luster. So I think they just kind of keep it where it's at and utilize it, spotlight it as much as possible, obviously keep that title. But then, have pure matches every week, every event, stuff like that, and just make that a facet of how they do things. So it can be a really prevalent part of the promotion without being all the matches, because I think you got to have a good mixture of both, and it gives them a lot of depth to have, traditional style wrestling matches and then the pure matches. And I think for fans like us who are prize fight fans, it does speak to us because the rules are clear, the rules are monitored, and it's the closest thing to actual combat sports as a simulated combat sport that I think you can get in pro wrestling outside of, having a blood sport type thing or something like that that's really, really closely related to MMA. It's just really appealing to me.
One other thing, Will, something that I think
happy holidays, Marks. We appreciate you, buddy. Just throw that in there, Rob. I just want to talk over Rob mostly.
I just wanted to interrupt you.
That's fine. Something that will appeal to most of us, and definitely somebody like J-Cal, something that they do in Ring of Honor, especially when they were rolling out those pure tag team rules. I love the little asides that they make. Like the announce team makes the point that these rules are identical to WCW Australian tag team rules under the leadership of the legendary Jim Barnett, with the exception of 2 out of 3 falls. And I don't have the capacity to research that. I was intrigued by the fact that they called it WCW. But I appreciate this attempt to root this in history, and you find lots of contextualizing the Ring of Honor, which is one of the best things they do. They try to place things in context and add some rationale behind it. And I love the rooting in history. That's one of my favorites.
Some people can take offense to that's too much, but I also feel like that's really fun. That's as fun as any other thing you can do.
It's deep history when Rob doesn't have the capacity to research it. He's like, because some of the stuff Rob comes up with is so obscure. And so if it's too deep for Rob, I'm like, wow, these guys are on it.
Yeah, no kidding. But no, that is cool. And I see people hoping like Kenny Omega gets involved in that sort of thing. It would be kind of interesting to see Kenny Omega in like a pure rules match someday. And that sort of thing. That would be fun. But it does. You mentioned Bloodsport, Will. That was my next thing that I could think of is like the closest you could get to, like, if you're an MMA fan, at least this grounds everything in reality. I even love the respect that's shown, even like in that Dalton Castle and God, I forgot his name again. That match.
Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
That they they didn't go into the match shaking hands, but by the time it was over, like when it was finished, they were still like in each other's face, but they still like shook hands at the end of it. They walked away. I don't know. I feel like that kind of thing, even that can build slowly over time to those times that you refuse to respect the other person. It means something. Like it's like it becomes a blood feud kind of thing, you know, like
and it really doesn't. What's crazy, it doesn't take away from the competitiveness. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but when I see that, I remember getting back into Ring of Honor here lately. I had forgotten about the handshakes and the code of honor. And I was kind of like, oh, that's going to make it like feel real friendly and real, you know, whatever. But it doesn't. It's just mutual respect. These guys are fighters. Even if they have a feud and you're buying into the idea that they hate each other, after going to battle like they do, for them to shake hands, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, these guys just clashed, you know, and there is a mutual respect. Now you've got some feuds that kind of exist outside of that when you're talking about like Taven and Bennett feuding with Vincent and like that's, you know, that is like a blood feud, and that is something that like you're probably not going to see that code of honor adhered to, but they use that as a layer to, you know, express the brutality of that feud. You know, I mean, these are guys that are beating each other with axe handles and, you know, stuff like that. So like there's a level of brutality to that, and that further enhances that, you know, the absence of that handshake and stuff like that. So it's just another thing like the Pure Rules that they use to really add a layer of authenticity to their in-ring storytelling, which is a lost art, unfortunately, in 2020.
Well, you know, when I was watching, sorry, Rob, I'll throw to you. What I was going to say is, you know, when I was watching it before, I joined Honor Club. I'll just say this because since I'm blowing smoke up their butts this whole time, I joined Honor Club when the NWA was crossing over with them before, and I dropped it because I was not that into it, and something had happened there. But the difference now that I can tell you that I definitely notice is this emphasis on telling the story behind why each match is important. And I felt like there were, I don't know, for some reason when I was watching it before, and this is not exclusive to Ring of Honor, by the way, this is most promotions, it felt like it got into this groove of like matches were just happening and it didn't matter as much. But it feels like now they definitely have that same feel that like if you loved NWA and you loved 10 pounds of gold, like that aspect of it, it's like every episode of Ring of Honor right now is giving you little episodes of 10 pounds of gold before you watch the match between the two guys. And that's what makes it feel special. And I can't say enough good things about that because it's exactly what professional wrestling should be to me. Rob, did you have something else to add to that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, just two things. One, I wanted to say that to Will's point earlier, I think the Pure Rules add a layer of depth too, that they can set, you know, the relaxed or the grudge matches, and they'll do that. This is a grudge match. They'll call it that, you know, and you don't hear a lot of that these days. It's just regular matches in Raw and SmackDown. You know, everything's a grudge match there. And then you've got the Pure Rules match. So I think it adds a layer of depth to the different styles. It's almost like when you're in amateur wrestling. My brother and I both wrestled in high school, and we dabbled in Greco-Roman and folk style. And then once we got into college, we both got into freestyle. Different styles, different sports altogether. It's like the difference between that and pankration. They're different forms of wrestling. So you add this sort of depth to what they're putting out there. It's a different style. And I think someone was mentioning about how you have to, Dave Scooby was mentioning how you have to adjust your style to that, kind of like Delirious had to against Rhett Titus on Monday night or Tuesday night. The other thing I wanted to say is that thinking back to J. Cal's excellent podcast he did, I want to say it was April or May. You remember he was talking about rising tides raise all ships, and he was absolutely. Just talking about the synergy that exists among like-minded fans, and he's been a leader in the hashtag NWA fam since, you know, through a lot of hard times when NWA might have been very vibrant, but wasn't getting the exposure that it deserved. But it just kind of thinking along those lines of rising tides, raising all ships. You almost see this playing out in the world of wrestling with the code of honor, how you see that happening in other promotions. And just one example was the other night on Dark, where Stu Grayson is wrestling Lee Johnson. And obviously this may be playing into a storyline, but they made a big deal about the show of respect between Stu Grayson and Lee Johnson afterwards, where Stu gives Lee Johnson the fist pump, even though QT Marshall was kind of looking on sort of suspiciously. And the other time that I saw this, I was like, man, this is like code of honor influence here. Tommaso Ciampa, his whole gimmick right now, it's not even a gimmick. I mean, his whole movement is to clean up the locker room in NXT. And he faced a guy that's got an extensive background in the United Wrestling Network, Rust, who was Thatcher's student. And now we're not quite sure where he stands there, but the implication is that he's still in some way affiliated with Thatcher. But Tyler Rust and Tommaso Ciampa have this phenomenal match, man. And even Stu Bennett and those guys are making a big deal about how Tommaso's the more seasoned guy and Tyler Rust has been in the business as long, but has not wrestled the kind of quality of opponent. And I was thinking, it's like, I know they didn't just diss the United Wrestling Network and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and all those where Tyler Rust was at. But then as the match went on, Rust began to vindicate Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and Arizona and all those promotions out west that are under the influence of Dave Marquez and those guys. And Tyler Rust took Tommaso Ciampa to the limit. I thought he was going to win this match, guys. I mean, I was really like, holy cow. Well, after the match, does Ciampa give him a handshake or a fist bump? No, he doesn't. But he looks at him, he stares at him, and he's like, "You're the real deal, dude. Welcome to the NXT. You belong here." And he walks off, and then there's the little outside ring altercation with Thatcher. They're trying to hold him back and everything. But I saw that. It reminded me of J. Cal in that post, and just how Ring of Honor with the Code of Honor is having ripple effects throughout the world of wrestling. I could just be reading into this, but that's my prerogative, and that's what I want to read into it. So it's good to see that there's, even in a promotion like NXT with guys that I respect like Tommaso Ciampa, that you have this respect and this code that's being played out, even when the promotion as a whole is more carnival and less sport.
Dr. Rob dropping some knowledge there on you, and there's some interesting things. He also, in the middle of that, mentioned a few other things like Tommaso Ciampa and, NXT and just other promotions and that sort of thing. We want to know what you guys think, so throw it in the chat. Tell us what are you loving right now in professional wrestling. You have to let us know and share this with your friends. I'm feeling good. We're feeling in the holiday spirit right now. We want to know, what should we be watching? What have we missed? Tell us. We're ready to know. Rob still looking at that mistletoe. Out the stream. Let's get the people in here. Let's find out. Let's find out what everybody loves right now in professional wrestling, and make sure to subscribe so that we can stay in tune with what's going on in the wrestling world. You people are the guides for us to know what is great at professional wrestling. Willie Bowen out here talking about Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Willie, I love Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. We've had David Marquez on the show multiple times, and I watched this past week. And I think I already mentioned the Jordan Clearwater took on Will All Day. That was a great match. We had a number one contenders match because the Bodega are now the United Tag Team Champions. And so we saw 4 Minutes of Heat take on the Friendship Farm. And 4 Minutes of Heat won, unfortunately for the Friendship Farm. And there were several good things. Another guy that saw Championship Wrestling from Hollywood that is growing on me, although, guys, I still hate his tights, is Slice Boogie. Like, that guy wrestled again this past week, and he's a bruiser, man. He is good. Like, he just gets better and better every time I see him. And so Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, they've got some good stuff over there. I will say too, just while we're talking about it, I guess one cool thing we can throw in from the news side of things is we did get a tweet today that I thought was very interesting. It was from David Marquez following up on Nick Bonanno saying, I started on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood the day of the 200th episode as a fill-in referee. This weekend we air the 500th episode, and I stand here as the executive producer and showrunner. Thank you to so many for opportunities, to the boys, the crew, and the fans. Here's to 500 more. David Marquez just confirming it was a difficult decision to hand the keys to Nick. He gets it. He's passionate, reliable, and not a yes man. He and Aaron's thoughts, that's Aaron Stevens for those of you not in the know, are a great team and really turning United Wrestling and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood into something contemporary. 500 episodes. Wow. So, yeah, if you weren't already aware, David Marquez has handed over the reins to United Wrestling Network and Championship from Hollywood as far as on a show running capacity. And it's Nick there, and Aaron Stevens is one of their head bookers, NWA, one half of the tag team champions there. But the show is good. The show's legitimately a lot of fun to watch if you guys haven't checked it out. This past week, I can definitely recommend for sure. There's 3 or 4 matches on there, and they're all very solid, like interesting wrestling matches to watch. All right. And next up, what Alliance Wrestling, I guess as we're talking about it, says, I know this is completely unrelated. Would anyone be mad if Omega won the United World title? No, I think you should.
I wouldn't be mad, but I definitely wouldn't be mad, but I think there would be a lot of people that would be. Just, people who want to see that first champ be, someone a little more homegrown for United Wrestling. I think they've earned that right. So, I mean, it'd be huge. Obviously, it would make the headlines, but yeah.
I will throw in here just as we round up to the top of the hour. One of the things that's coming up right now is MLW Fusion is about to air, and that, of course, is going to feature this matchup. Tom Lawler takes on Low Key for the finals of the Opera Cup. That's going down, and that's going to be a big match there. We hope you stay with us, but we understand if you have to go. In addition to the Opera Cup main event. What's that?
Look at those guys. Like, I don't want to fight either of those guys. That's 2 bad dudes right there.
Exactly. They both have advanced to the finals. They're going to be taking on each other, and it feels like they're going to tear each other apart. Faux show. In addition to the Opera Cup, MLW is also going to be announcing additional matches set to take place for their annual pay-per-view event, Kings of Colosseum, which will air for free on Wednesday, January the 6th. We got to figure out a way to probably live stream for that. That's going to be at like 7 p.m.
While you've got that up, let me just point out, first of all, man, props to MLW for all that coverage there on the bottom. I mean, they're on Fubo Sports Network, YouTube, Bein Sports, DAZN. But I love how it's got like times for everything, and then DAZN, it's like 24/7. It's like
you could have watched this morning.
Yeah, it's on literally all the time. That's cool. That's one of the things, like when we talk about elevating pro wrestling as a whole and looking at different promotions, the one big props that I always give to MLW is their aggressiveness in going out and getting visibility, getting coverage all across the board. I mean, that's good for pro wrestling. It's good for MLW. So props to those guys for that.
Yeah, Jedi Warrior throwing in there. He likes the Opera Cup tournament, a mix of different wrestling styles competing to see which is best. I like promotions that have their own separate concept. One thing he's talking about there, for those that don't know, I mean, they're coming into this thing talking about how Tom Lawler is a mixed martial artist and wrestles in this submission style and that sort of thing, but Low Key's coming in as strong style from Japan, like that kind of thing. And so it's just kind of interesting to see how they play this up. So they're definitely emphasizing those differences in styles, which is very cool, I thought. But yeah, so far on the Kings of Colosseum show, the matches that have been announced for January 6th are Myron Reed versus Leo Rush for the MLW middleweight championship. Alex Hammerstone's going to be will put his national openweight championship on the line against the Black Hand of Contra, Mads Kruger, and Jordan Oliver will get a one-on-one match with Simon Gotch in a grudge match that they've been building up since May. Tonight, you're likely to find out more matches that are going to be taking place at that show, but that's going to be interesting. Rock says 79 saying any chance Jacob Fatu takes his place at the table anytime soon. That would be interesting. But Woodland Goblin giving the only comment that matters. Hammerstone!
Speaking of Hammerstone, did you see back to the current issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated? Did you see that there is a feature on Alexander Hammerstone on page 9, right there, about his favorite songs that he works out to and whatnot?
No, I haven't seen that yet, Rob.
You haven't even opened the envelope, have you, bro?
No, I opened the envelope. Your card is hanging on my wall with the card right next to the card from J-Cal and other cards I got. No card from Will.
Other cards. Well, listen, it's coming. It'll be there after New Year's.
Okay. Anyway, so that's exciting. That's going on. Hey, you want to talk about some real serious wrestling? The WWE announced their Slammy Award winners this morning at 10:30. There was a live special on the network. I hope you guys were all watching and paying attention. The Slammy Awards were announced. The Superstar of the Year, Drew McIntyre.
No,
Good old
shocker.
Drew. Yep. Drew won it all. I did see that Roman Reigns did not win anything, and he had a great Twitter response. Hold on, I'm going to find it real quick now because it's funny to me. They said somebody tweeted, "How the F did Roman Reigns not win any Slammies?" And he retweeted and said, "When you are the highest paid, most decorated superstar in this business, you don't need participation awards."
Boy.
So good old Roman Reigns being able to speak his mind finally, it feels like.
At least believably.
Yeah, exactly. Match of the year went to Undertaker versus AJ Styles in the Boneyard match. That was while that match was fun, that is interesting to me that was match of the year. That's just.
That's got to be just because the Undertaker is supposedly retiring and they're wanting to kind of put the exclamation mark on that career by that match being his last one. That's got to be why.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of there was like I remember watching that match at WrestleMania and just being pleasantly surprised with how much fun I had with it and having the thought of, okay, this can work. And then within a month or two being like, be careful what you wish for. Like now they're doing that. They're doing it too much. Well, and actually by the next night, because the Bray Wyatt John Cena one, I know several people that actually liked that one, but that one didn't do it for me. I was like, I don't even know what's happening in this one. But it seems to be a theme with Bray Wyatt matches.
On the level.
I mean, are the Slammies, does that only incorporate Raw and SmackDown, or does it incorporate NXT as well? I don't know. I stopped watching the Slammies since they. Well, I mean, we'll go there, but they does it incorporate NXT?
It appears they do not. I don't see any NXT.
You would think Finn Balor, Kyle O'Reilly match 1 would have been a contender for that.
You would think, like an actual good wrestling match. I mean, there's some that make sense.
They're not going to give match of the year to NXT.
Rivalry of the year was Edge and Orton. Tag team of the year were the Street Profits. Return of the year was Edge. Ring gear of the year. I don't know why this is a thing. New Day. Breakout star of the year, the Street Profits. Female superstar of the year, Sasha. Male superstar of the year, Drew. Moment of the year, The Undertaker's Final Farewell. Most creative 24/7. I don't even care. I don't. Man, I was gonna read out the categories and the people one day, and I didn't care. And now I could just read the winners, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I still don't care. So
do they still give the best buns award that they used to?
No, I definitely don't.
That's the only award that ever mattered, man.
Rob, I feel like you're trying to harken back to the Attitude and Divas era, and I feel like that's exactly why Carmella's your girl, because I can't imagine what else they're doing with her except trying to make her a character from that time.
Nah, man, don't be talking about her like that. First of all, bite your tongue.
For those of you who were not on our TLC live stream, Rob for the first time discovered Carmella and is now fascinated.
Fascinated. That's a pretty good word.
It was a respectful way of saying it. Rock says, can we talk about how big of a star Montez Ford is going to be when he turns heel and goes solo? Maybe. He's extremely impressive. I will give him that. But I thought the same about many a wrestler in WWE, including what's that one guy? What he used to be? Ricochet. Remember that guy? He was pretty badass one time. Now he doesn't even make it on the Hulu version of Raw. And I don't know. I will give him this. Cedric Alexander's another guy I really liked, and he's doing really well. Sort of. It's like, because if you watch the Hurt Business stuff, it's like they kind of hate him, and it looks like they're already ready to break up that group, even though they just won the tag team titles. And so it's kind of interesting. But Rock says, to be fair, Tez can talk on the mic and Ricochet can't. So maybe that's the case. Maybe that's what it does. All right, let's move on from WWE. What else did you guys see this week that you really, really loved? You mentioned, Rob, all of the Mission Pro women. I have to say, it might sound like I'm saying favorites or playing favorites, but Maddie Rinkowski blew me away in her match. I thought she did great, and I was even more assured that she's on to great things in the future. Like, she just looked amazing in her match, and just her attitude and everything else. Like, she just had it. So I will give her props. As far as the new girls going into Mission Pro, Jasmine Allure had a good match, but she was also in there with the women's wrestler Thunder Rosa, and so I feel like she's got a lot going for her. And Bert Vixen, by the way, looked very confident, and so none of them looked bad. Every single one of them looked fantastic walking into their matches and looked like they were ready to compete. I'll say this, and then I'll throw it to you guys. The person I'm most impressed with from Mission Pro this last time till now is just Red Velvet. Like, just something about her. I keep saying this, like, something has clicked all of a sudden from a few months ago till now. Red Velvet looks fantastic. Like, she just looks as confident could be. She looks ready to go. She looks vicious in the ring. She looks like she's ready to fight. And why are you showing me Hammerstone?
I'm just saying,
you've been joined by a special guest.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a special guest.
I love you, Gary. I'm your number one fan, Gary.
Oh, Hammerstone,
this
thank
beef
you so much.
castle is all for you, baby.
Meat Mountain.
I got MLW on my phone right here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Red Velvet, very, very awesome. I cannot tout her enough. I think she's fantastic. But Maddie Rinkowski, as far as the brand new, the rookie girls walking in for their very first match, Maddie killed it. You could not have hoped for better out of her. But Rob, I see you've got notes, so go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, a lot of times you don't watch AEW Dark for a whole lot of storyline development. You're looking at other things. This is we use the word a menagerie of talent. They're bringing people through to showcase. That doesn't mean that stories aren't furthered. We did, usually on the waiting room with Britt Baker, you're going to have some narrative being developed, and we did here with SCU and the drama there between Daniels and Kazarian. But we said it at the top of the show. You had 6 Mission Pro alumnus represented, and there are others I want to give a shout out to that aren't Mission Pro alumnus. I thought Tesha Price, even though she was up there against Nyla Rose and just got squashed, I like her quirkiness,
dude. Her entrance and just her attitude, she stood out to me too, man.
Yeah, and then the other one that I like that's not that I'd hope to see in Buda, Texas at some point is Kylan King, man. She's just got a great look, dude. I thought that she and I really thought that she was going to beat Alex Gracia because she has some wins on AEW Dark in the past, and Gracia was winless. But I got to give my hats off to Alex Gracia. She gets a shot at Hikaru Shida. And then you had, of course, Vert Vixen versus Red Velvet, and that was a very one-sided match. But to your point about the improvement that Red Velvet's made, just to add some context, who did Red Velvet wrestle at the very first Mission Pro show? Health Have No Fury.
Vert Vixen.
She wrestled Maddie
Winkowski. Yeah, I thought about that as I was watching it, and I was like, I remember watching it and being like, did she wrestle Vert Vixen? No, it was Maddie, and she lost to Maddie.
She lost to Maddie, who then turned around and lost to legit Layla Hirsch, who is legit. She's legit. And what was really the showing of the night, I think Maddie, obviously being a little heelish with the attitude and this and that, I couldn't have cared less if she won or not. I liked her attitude. I liked her spunk, kind of like the whole Tesha Price thing. But it was so fantastic to see all of our girls, man. Vert Vixen looked fantastic. Vert Vixen pulled duty as the referee, the sometime referee at the last Mission Pro show, and of course she's been a mainstay since the beginning. Jasmine Allure, who's trying to make a name for herself at the expense of Maddie Winkowski. There's a lot of cross lines going on here, and it just so happens that Jasmine Allure, Vert Vixen, and Maddie Winkowski are alumnus, or they're students of the Dog Pound Dojo of the Mission Pro School. They're out of San Antonio, Texas, being trained by Thunder Rosa and her cohort. It's only a matter of time before we see other women like those out of the ROW school, Booker T, represented. I can't wait to see Rachel Rose being featured on AEW Dark, because I think she's a star in the making too. But these women are all going to be a big deal. They're already a big deal, and it was such a pleasure to see this show. I took a lot of notes on AEW Dark, but you can see my highlights there. My highlights there have to do with I call them the fabulous femmes of Mission Pro, man. They're fantastic, and it was great to see them.
Oh, I mean, we're just hanging out. I mean, the thing is for me too is Kylan King was another standout for me. She's well, what it is, I think that could be potentially brilliant. That I don't want to take away or give Tony Khan too much credit. I don't know what he's doing over there, what his behind the scenes thoughts are, but he's bringing in independent talent to showcase on this show without having them contractually locked in. May have just been even a part of the pandemic, just necessitating this. But whatever it is, you're getting the chance to see a lot of these people. So I guess where I'm going with this is that either he's going to find some new people. It's probably both. He's going to find some new people and people that have a lot of potential that he gets to sign. And even if he doesn't, he's helping out so many people to boost their revenue outside of even AEW, like just on the independent scene is like the face value of these people, which is really, really cool. And I can say that that's working because of, like, for instance, someone like Kylan King, who I don't think I've seen win a match yet, but there's something about her that by this time on AEW Dark, I'm like, all right, Kylan, come on. Yeah, this is cool. I like Kylan King. Like, I was into her and wanted to see her win. She's like consistently on there. I think the same thing is going to happen. For instance, say, look at a guy like Danny Limelight, who's everywhere he could possibly be. And he is on AEW Dark. He's on New Japan. He's on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. That Joker is going for it. Anywhere he can try to go for it, he's there. Anywhere he has an opportunity. But anyway, Will, we've been running our mouths here, and you're nodding along, so I don't want to take all the air out of the room.
I just agree. No, AEW Dark, and Rob just mentioned this, but he's right. It doesn't really. It's not really an avenue to further storylines, but it's a really good example of how you can have a well-rounded wrestling promotion like that, where you've got, part, shows that further storylines, and then part just good wrestling shows, and a platform to put the spotlight on people. And the fact that they have, obviously all these ladies from Mission Pro are represented. And then you can see them in the audience on Dynamite, that kind of stuff. I mean, it kind of just gives me the warm fuzzies about pro wrestling again, because it's like everyone's playing nicely with each other, and you've got these guys. I mean, you mentioned Danny Limelight. I mean, he was on there facing Brian Cage a couple of weeks back.
It looked good. And
it wasn't a squash match. He got some good offense in. And
on top of that, Will, not to jump all over you here, but I loved on this week on AEW Dark, even Taz and Excalibur are commenting on that fact. Like they were building on that story that and that's Taz's boy. That's his number one. And Taz is even saying this kid's got something. Like he was taking it to Brian.
Yeah, and I mean, so, there's not necessarily major storylines being furthered, but there's kind of sub-storylines that exist within AEW Dark, and you can watch Dark and follow along, and it's the perfect companion to not just AEW, but as we're mentioning, Mission Pro Wrestling. It's the perfect companion to things like Bloodsport that we got into a few months back. You're seeing a lot of the same people cross over and be represented, and obviously UWN, Primetime Live, we're seeing some representation there and a lot of crossovers. So it's become kind of a hub for the who's who of not necessarily signed exclusive talent, and it's just been a great thing for pro wrestling. So it's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of matches every week. It's kind of the opposite of Ring of Honor, where we kind of tout that it's 55 minutes Ring of Honor is, and you can really get into it. You can get in, you can get out, you can enjoy yourself. Dark is a little more robust in content, but it's just one of those things that it's worth your while to pay attention to. At least pay attention to who's popping up on there, because you're probably going to see them more and more. And it's a good way to get introduced to some of this talent that otherwise you may not see.
We're talking about nothing shows up. This has been my one weird thing with Dark, by the way, is sometimes I wish they would reference Dark on Dynamite just to show these other people. I don't know, but at the same time, I want to take the opportunity to have our people from Mission Pro. And it's so funny, Rob, I meant to mention this earlier, but it's so funny watching Mission Pro, and we look at them as our girls are all there. They're showing up. It's so interesting to just feel like you're part of their journey and you want to see them succeed and that sort of thing. But
it is. I was going to say my brother was over here. He just lives right down the road, and we were watching Dark. And every time one of those six came on, I was like, "This is one of ours. That's one of our girls. We work for the company or something."
Yeah, exactly. You feel like it's one of your people, and I think Mission Pro goes for that, which is cool. I can't speak to that I would have any as much of a connection as Brian or Thunder or any of those people, but you feel like a special connection to them, that you want to see them come out on top and you want to see them make it in the business. But anyway, sometimes I wish Dark could do more, or that Dynamite would recognize it more. But then sometimes I also appreciate the fact that maybe it exists in its own sphere, that maybe the people watching it recognize that these are people also trying to carve their path, people trying to hone their craft, that sort of thing. So, if there's a slip up here and there, that it doesn't matter. Say, for instance, I really enjoyed the Sunny Kiss versus Miro match. I enjoyed that Miro looked strong, which is something I feel like has been missing in Dynamite sometimes. But also, I feel like there was some slip ups here and there. But for some reason, when I was watching the match, I was like, I really see the potential in Sonny Kiss also. But I still see that Sonny Kiss, I feel like, is green. Not like I'm saying I'm a better wrestler by any means, but I just mean like I'm seeing like this is a chance for Sonny Kiss to hone his craft, to like get better at what he's doing and learn to wrestle different opponents. Same with when it came to like Jurassic Express versus Bear Country. Bear Country, by the way, another team that I already love. Like I love Bear Country. I'm just into that whole thing. I don't know why, but they took on Jurassic Express, and there were just these moments of watching it, and you're like seeing Jungle Boy like take on these bigger opponents, like just guys like twice his size. And I'm watching it with this eye of like, this is cool. Like you're seeing Jungle Boy, it feels like hone his skill against like, how does he handle a bigger opponent? Like what's he do in those matches and that sort of thing. And it's just, I don't know. It's a lot of fun to watch these things happen. And then by the end, you do get the matches like Phoenix and Limelight, or Matt Sydal versus Serpentico, that just work as good, solid wrestling matches.
It's a callback for me to, I grew up on WCW. So I became a wrestling fan as a kid, right outside of, the end of Jim Crockett Promotions, NWA, it transitioned into WCW. So I grew up on WCW Saturday Night, WCW Main Event, those TBS shows that came on. And that's pretty much what those were. I mean, they would have video packages to promote Halloween Havoc that was coming up and whatever feud, and they'd show you some highlights and stuff like that. But mostly it was just matches that were seemingly thrown together, and it was just good wrestling. And I feel like that's what Dark is calling back to, is a time when you could just put two people together, put on a great match, and it could be a good wrestling show. And I like that they're showing that that's still something you can do in 2020. You don't have to be oversaturated with 4 storylines and things like that. You could just have a good wrestling show. To me, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We also throw in there that it doesn't further storyline, but I mean, that's kind of where I was going to. But they do have also. I was going to go to like not just the moments of seeing the people develop themselves, but also Britt Baker's segment in the waiting room or whatever. There is the storyline development of Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, that sort of thing that's happening too, which is interesting because it kind of makes you feel bad because it was very good. And you're like, on Dynamite, they'll continue the process of those two, whatever's happening with them. And people there that only watch Dynamite might have missed this one little segment where they actually have a talk about it, which is kind of a bummer, but also Dynamite or Dark does feed you like a little bit here and there.
They do. It's not so much unlike what the NWA / WCW used to do, like in the late 80s, early 90s on Saturday morning at 8 and on Sunday night at 6 or 7, where they'd have the 1 hour show, and it was there to they were there to support the mothership, which was 6 to 5 on Saturday night. You might have teams like High Voltage or somebody like that wrestled. You wouldn't often see, although you would from time to time see something important happen. But typically this stuff was, it wasn't live, and not that the Saturday night show was either, but it was intended to be digested as though it were, happening at the moment. The Saturday morning and Sunday night stuff was just meant to kind of enhance or kind of add a little bit of color and context. And I think Dark does that really well. And the Britt Baker thing is an example par excellence. And I think, of course, when you see like Thunder Rosa get in there and she's shouting out Britt Baker's name, and you have Miro with his history going on with who is it? Orange Cassidy and those guys. I mean, you got a lot of things that support the story, although it's not like Will's saying, this is really to showcase wrestling. It's not the main intent of this to develop or add anything addition to this or to add any swerves to the story. It's only there to enhance it a little bit. So, but it's good. It's worthwhile. And I think this last Dark episode, you might argue whether it was the best one or not so far, but this was like episode 67. They've had 67 of these Dark episodes. This one to me is really important to me because just because our girls were on there, 6 of our girls were represented. You had another couple talents on there that were pretty good, but Mission Pro was represented in full force, and I love this episode, man.
Well, I will throw in, just not wash over it since Rock Says 79 did bring it up. I mean, did you guys? I don't know if you all had it. It sounds like Rob did. Will, did you see Dark all the way through and see the Kazarian?
Not all of it, no.
So what he's referring to here is, I mean, there's a segment of it where, I mean, in the waiting room where Kazarian kind of calls Daniels to the carpet and says, every time we've lost, you're the person who got pinned. And, like we started out this company as a team. Like we came in as SCU, and we've been SCU this whole time. We were the first tag team champions. And, now we're at the bottom of the list. Like we're last in the rankings. And he's basically, so it's not a nothing story to me, because he's telling him, like, it's very frustrating. And Daniel says, you know what, I guess what it is Kazarian is saying basically, like, everything I have in this business or everything I have in my life is because of this business. The wife I met in this business. The son I have is because of this business. The food he eats and the clothes on his back are because of this business. I'm just, he's like, it's frustrating. And Daniel's just like, he's like, I'm sorry, but I just have to call you out on this. And Daniel's just like, no, don't apologize because you're passionate about something. I lost that passion already. He's like, I've been doing this for 30 years. He's like, I just don't have it in me anymore. And maybe you're better off on your own. I'm just going to go ahead and walk away. And so he starts to leave. Kazarian's like, no, wait. This is not that thing. Like, I'm not telling you to walk away and leave. And he basically gives him a speech about, if you're Christopher Daniels and you're Christopher Daniels, I know you don't leave on a whimper, you leave fighting. And so he's like, the only way I know to do this anymore is that you're going to keep you fighting is to give you something to be passionate about. He's like, you're the best man at my wedding. You're my best friend. He's like, we have to start kicking ass and we have to start winning matches. And so we're going to go back out here. And I want you to agree to this, that we start wrestling matches again as a tag team, and we'll stay a tag team until the day that we lose another match. And then basically it's like, if the day that we lose again is the day we have to part ways. And Christopher Daniels agrees. So it's not like a nothing story. Like, it's something for them. And it sounds very cool to me. And so what Rock says is in the story or in the chat here, just mentioning, does this mean that the underappreciated fallen angel and Kazarian start rolling through everybody until they lose and break up after a title chance? I don't know. Maybe that's what happens. I don't know. Maybe it leads to the championships. And then when they lose the championships, I don't know where that goes, but it gives them immediately. It gives them some heft behind their act that I don't think they had going into this.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. I didn't get a chance to see that segment, but I'm going to go back and watch it because the way that you told it, Gary, was just so compelling.
Thanks.
But no, yeah, I mean, I love that kind of stuff. And again, not to keep saying the same thing, but you would see those kind of storylines develop on those shows that Rob and I were mentioning, but it wouldn't be like earth-shattering stuff. And it'll be interesting to see if they turn that into a storyline. Do they call back to Dark on Dynamite tonight? Do they show that clip? Do they?
That's what I mean. Yeah, those guys are going to still have matches. So do they finally reference this?
Yeah, I mean, unless it's going to be something that plays out entirely on Dark. I would think they would have to spotlight that.
just interesting because and it's also worth mentioning too that we'll get to previews here in a minute, but I mean the what is their name? Max Caster or the other guy? I just forgot their name. The acclaimed
Bushwhackers.
The Bushwhackers are taking on the Young Bucks, which I would pay to see.
That would be awesome. Could you imagine?
The Acclaimed are taking on the Young Bucks, and it's like I heard Brian Alvarez from the Observer, like he was given the. By the way, shout out to Dave Meltzer. As much as we give him, we have these debates about him here and there. His mother passed away yesterday, and so our sympathies are with him and his family. It's a bummer. And so Brian was doing the show solo, basically saying like Dave will probably be back tomorrow because he's Dave, but he's like he's welcome to take as much time as he needs. Anyway, on that show, Brian Alvarez was saying that, you know, he actually pointed out the Acclaimed. He's like, say what you will about the Acclaimed getting a title shot on Dynamite against the Young Bucks, but they're 8-0 on Dark. And that's the thing they're saying is like they are 8-0, like they've, you know, never been defeated. And so he's like, that's at least a callback to Dark that they've at least gone that long, despite, you know, whether or not somebody put them on Dynamite. So it's interesting how they're weighing these things out. I don't know. All right. Well, we can get into previews for this week and whatever else the chat wants to do. So you guys throw in your stuff here. Rob has a notebook full of stuff, so I'm sure he's got plenty of notes to go over if you guys want to know. I still get requests to get photos of Rob's notebook, but I didn't even see it really in person when we were even together. I didn't.
Yeah, it can't be seen in person.
It's like I feel like
directly at it.
No, it's like the Shekinah glory will just blind you.
I feel like one day that Will and I, as Rob, who's, you know, closer to 80 than we are, probably by like 30 years, we'll one day have to chase down Rob, and it'll be like Indiana Jones of the Last Crusade. We'll have to like hunt him down, and he'll be in some kind of Nazi imprisonment, and we'll have to track him down through his notebook that we found.
Just so you don't think we're shooting from the hip here. This is for this week's show, for tonight only.
That's too much.
Bro, I
this was last.
We don't let you get to all of that. I don't know.
It's not meant to. It's not everything's is. A lot of them are notes for me. A lot of the stuff that I highlight in here, like I also want to use this as a reference. So like you can go back and like if you see this here we have the new right there, the new pure tag team rules. I might want to reference that later. You know what I mean? If
there's one whole page that just over and over it just says Carmella Stinson with like little hearts. So, you know, to be fair.
Then we've got some things. It's not all handwritten notes. Like here we have the UWN bracket taped in here.
Wow, that's really good. You did a good job drawing that.
Yeah, hand drawn, dot matrix style. You know. Then we've got Carneyland notes going all the way back to Carneyland. You know.
Also worth a note, one of Rob's daughters is named Piper, and she's exactly the same age as the time that Rob went to WrestleFest and met Roddy Piper with his wife Tanya. And there was a drunken night of debauchery, and for some reason, anyway, her name is Piper, and I just feel like there's more to that story, and we'll hear it later on when Piper's old enough to hear about it.
She looks nothing like me. It's like it's crazy, man. Yeah,
she loves kilts.
She loves the Scots, which is why I guess she likes Tom Latimer. I'm just kidding.
Oh man. Well, I will say this: Brawl, as far as ratings go, Raw did come back with a rating. They did not bounce back as much as everybody expected because of the pay-per-view. Usually the show after a pay-per-view bounces back fully. It did bounce back higher than last week, which was the lowest rating of all time, but still the lowest at this time of the year that they've ever had. Anyway, I say all that to say that I am not an AEW shill, because I said it in the Discord, and I'll say it here right now. For some reason last week, not only did AEW do really well, NXT bounced back really, really well. And it was pretty close. NXT killed it. And I'll go on record as saying I watched both shows last week, and NXT was the better wrestling show last week. It was the better one. And I really enjoyed NXT. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I'd love for that to be the competition, because both those shows are the ones that seemingly try. All of that to say, I complimented NXT last week because we jumped on this show, and I was like, go back to last week's episode on a Wednesday, and I was like, I actually have things to tell you that NXT is doing, because they've been promoting them. And I'm not going to say there's a direct correlation between that, but they've done it again. And so we will see on NXT this week, The Way, which is Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell, Austin Theory. They're hosting a very Gargano Christmas. And so we will see how that plays out. I'm already interested. NXT Tag Team Champions Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch defend against Drake Maverick and Killian Dane in the street fight. Jake Atlas versus Isaiah Swerve Scott. Dakota Kai versus Rhea Ripley. Bronson Reed will return. And it says, the note I have here is NXT champion Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly will relive their TakeOver 31 main event as they prepare for the rematch at New Year's Evil. So
we're looking at a vignette or something, probably.
Yeah, some kind of vignette or something, it appears. So, but NXT actually has a layout for their effing show, and so props to them. and it's all it all sounds fun. It all sounds fine.
Yeah, and I mean, buckle up, because these woes and this kind of downturn for Monday Night Raw, it's going to be short lived, because if you heard, in a week or two, we get to have Raw Legends Night, and that is going to save. That's going to save WWE. That's going to just reinvigorate Monday Night Raw, because every time I watch Monday Night Raw, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, I'm watching, and the only thing I can think, I'm like, God, what does this need? What does this need? I know, the Big Show, right? Oh my gosh, this needs Shawn Michaels right now. And
can you guys legitimately think of, let me just throw this out there, can you legitimately think of a time that they've done like a Legends incorporation into Monday Night Raw or anything that it has mattered long term, or like impacted storyline? Because I racked my brain about this.
Not that doesn't involve Ric Flair.
Right. I was going to say, usually when Ric Flair's in there, there's a reason. But
That's
other than that, you're right.
Fair enough.
The last like 5 times that Stone Cold has been on there, it was literally just a novelty. It didn't further any storyline. It had no impact. It was like blatant, hey, look at me for 5 minutes. We got Stone Cold drinking a beer and yelling at a mic. And it's just, it's disheartening to see that, because I don't want my memories of Stone Cold to be that. I want it to be of him, spraying beer from the beer truck on everybody and, that kind of stuff. So,
well, at least it's never with Stone Cold. He picks his spots enough that it's never him just being a complete dumbass. Like they've tried to use other people in the past. I will say good on you for bringing up Ric Flair, because I do think he's also been able to have like some pretty decent spots from here and there, although he's played musical chairs in the middle of the ring and that sort of thing too before. But I guess that feels Ric Flairish. The one that stood out to me the most that I thought had any sort of intrinsic value to storyline long term ever was when CM Punk, you remember when The Rock came back and he was dropping the people's elbow and CM Punk like jumped in the middle of the ring and delivered like the rock bottom to The Rock, like at the end of the show, like he was supposed to be the good guy. And that must have been 7 to 10 years ago now. But it's that one still stood out in my mind that like, oh yeah, he dropped The Rock. And everybody was like, holy crap, CM Punk just dropped The Rock. Now, they never paid that off, really, but it was something. I think they did go to a Survivor Series where The Rock easily dispatched CM Punk, but it was a thing they did. It's like every time they do a Legend show, it feels like they bring back a bunch of people that people are like, oh, hell yeah, Sergeant Slaughter's going to be there, and I like Hacksaw, and I'm gonna tune into this thing. And they do, and there's nothing to compel them to keep watching. It's just like this particular show features people you remember, and that's what they do with it. It's never to like enhance a storyline.
It's curious to me because, you know, they are ultra concerned about that demographic, right? What is it, 18 to 45? But by doing these Legend shows, you're really narrowing that down to like, you know, 38 to 45 or like 39 to 45. Like you're really, you're not hitting that target demo. So it's like, it doesn't make sense to me from a marketing standpoint, which is how I think, because that's what I do for a living. It's like, okay, if you're going to go after a demographic, you got to skew more towards the 18 to 30, you know, and these are people that aren't going to be familiar with half the names on that list. I mean, unless they go back and watch historic stuff, but it just doesn't provide any actual value. And when you're talking about the contrast between WWE and AEW and Ring of Honor and the NWA, and we talk a lot about storyline and use of fresh new talent and building them up, it just seems like the opposite direction to go to say, hey, we're going to bring back some legends. And it just feels like it's just an unnecessary and unimpactful flex on WWE's part. Hey, we got all these people. It's not going to do anything for them. So it's just, I don't know. It's curious to me. And there was a lot of buzz about the USA Network was furious at those low ratings and we're telling them to, you know, you gotta step it up. So they burned The Fiend alive in the ring. And it's like, it's like one of those things. Like, have you ever known that person that like no matter what you told them, they didn't get it? Like, I feel like
that way.
I feel like WWE is that person.
I will say Meltzer like completely refuted that wasn't the case. Like USA wasn't like irate and crazy, but you know,
I read it on the internet, Gary. I read it on the internet. So
some people would say that about anything that Meltzer says. So I'm just all of this with a grain of salt. I've seen it go both ways.
It's whatever you want to do.
But it is worth mentioning that it 100% is true. It was brought up on our Discord. It's been brought up that like literally like last Wednesday or something was like the 2-year anniversary of the time that all the McMahon family ended up in the middle of the ring saying like, we hear you. It's not a great product. You know, we're going to do better from here. You're in charge. You are creative control, blah, 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 blah. And it's been 2 years. Yeah, you're the authority. And ratings have still just dropped since then. I can't tell you. Look, I'm the one who watched Raw, and I can't tell you one, because Rob's here, I can't tell you one gosh darn thing that is different about any other Raw I've watched since I've started watching them. Like, I can't tell you. There was nothing different. There was not one damn thing that had changed that I could be like, oh, I think they're getting something. Like, it just seemed like the same show. It didn't seem like anything was progressing anywhere. So if anybody talked to them about delivering any sort of different message, I don't know. It wasn't reflected this week. And Vince doesn't seem to be the guy who's afraid to change the script like 2 hours beforehand. So I don't know what's happening, but I don't know. I just know that we can point you to about 4 to 5 other shows that are effing killing it right now. and Raw is not. And whatever.
But if you want to keep up with what's happening, check out the Fast Count on our podcast channel. Go subscribe.
Oh yeah, man!
Go
3
listen
hour
to
show.
Gary.
Get it down.
Go listen to Gary lament for 10 to 15 minutes about watching the show that you don't have to watch anymore.
Yeah, it's like 12 minutes this week.
Man,
Just
I thought you were
get
going to say for a second. Well, I thought you were going to say, if you want to keep up with what's going on in comfort, then check out Manscaped.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, you can use the promo code NWA pod at manscaped.com. You're probably not going to get it by Christmas, but still, it's worth a shot.
If you need one by Christmas, listen, this is because we love you. If you need one by Christmas, Rob, send out your address. Rob's got one, gently used, but he will give it to you. Just drop it. It's pickup only, no charge, no shipping. He'll send his address. You can go pick it up straight from his house. It's a 2.0.
It's a 2.0.
But it'll get the job done.
Speaking of somebody who could use some charity, Rob, is our good friend Dr. Red Tyler, who's got a little soreness in his right shoulder. He was a recipient of the vaccine. He's a first responder, if you didn't know, Dr. Red Tyler. So shout out Dr. Red Tyler, who's out there. He took the vaccine. Let us know how it goes with the chip implant in your brain. And just see.
Yeah, what color chip did you get?
Yeah, did you get a red computer chip in your head?
He can buy and sell now that he has the mark.
We're just effing around, Dr. Red. No, props to you. What'd you say?
My bride got the first of the 2 shot series this morning. She's also a first responder and she's a medical professional. So
nice.
She was in the emergency room at Hamilton Medical Center. Shout out, and she got the first of the 2 series this morning. So she's there with you, Doctor.
Yeah, if it doesn't work out, there's still Carmella.
Yeah.
Ron's too busy eating turkey. I think Carmella's with Corey Graves, so you don't stand a chance.
That's irrelevant to me. Evidently, Rachel Rose has a boyfriend too. Okay, so I got all kind of backup plans, bruh. If that don't work out, you got Patricia Kelly, man. You got her. She's up there.
I love that at least one of these pages has like a list of the people we're about
that's what he's looking for. That's what he's looking for.
Where's my list of contacts at?
One of these pages, he's got like a little one of those little plastic tabs on it there. Oh man.
Look.
There it is. There's the ones. Tanya replacements.
The other couple.
Oh man. Gary will play Santa Claus for the spiritual advisor every day. Every day. Whatever day she celebrates, I'm in. I will gladly massage her bald head. AEW Dynamite preview. We already mentioned the Young Bucks are taking on the Acclaimed. Tony Schiavone is interviewing Sting. Here's hoping it's an actual interview this time and not just like Sting saying a few points. Because it's not like the ratings have skyrocketed. I'm not knocking Sting. I'm just saying like they got a big boost that first time, and then it's been kind of steady since. It's like make Sting a big dude. You gotta make it matter. Yeah, you gotta make it matter. So
you gotta answer some questions, and you gotta do it fast. I mean, we've all got the same questions. We're not alone here. What's he there for? What's the end goal here? What's it going to look like to have him there? We're all excited, but here we are, 3 weeks removed or 2 weeks removed from his debut? No, 3 weeks.
We don't know anything else. Yeah.
And we still don't know. So here's hoping that they really open up the floodgates and give us some information tonight about what we can expect from the Stinger, because I'm eager for it.
Chris Jericho and MJF take on Top Flight. AEW's women's champion Hikaru Shida will take on Alex Gracia. Dustin Rhodes versus Evil Uno, Jurassic Express versus, that's all of Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Marco Stunt versus Colt Cabana and Dark Orders 5 and 10. Pac is in action versus The Butcher. Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford announce their wedding date. That'll probably go fine. Yeah. And
do you guys want to guess when it's going to be?
No, I don't
predictions?
know.
Wedding date predictions? I say April.
It's like a pool.
April. Yeah, mid-April. Rob, what do you think?
I say what day you say, Will, if you had to pick a day?
Well, I mean, I got to look because I don't know what Saturdays are in April. I don't have a calendar like right near me.
You don't have a computer you're looking at right now?
You said mid-April?
Yeah, but if I pull up a calendar, it'll this whole stream will crash.
Well, February 14th is on Sunday, so I'm gonna go February 13th. That's what I'm gonna say.
You're going February 13th?
Like maybe a pay-per-view right around there. Or February 10th is what I'll say. Well, I'll hedge for like 3 days because depending on if they have a pay-per-view there, but right around the Valentine's Day area.
And then Will is that's middle Saturday in April is April the 17th. So if that's what you're going with, I'm gonna go with a Sunday wedding. I'm gonna go the 18th. Not so fast, Will. I'm gonna go the 18th.
Or is it Double or Nothing? They're in Vegas in May.
Hey,
I'm gonna say Double or Nothing.
No. But
a Vegas wedding does make sense. I'm
changing my prediction. They're already married. They've already been to Vegas.
You son of a bee.
They're already married.
It's crazy. That's good stuff.
This is pro wrestling.
Miro and Kip Sabian had a falling out. And in a drunken stupor, Miro and Penelope Ford were wed in Vegas.
Wow.
You think they try that when everybody in the world knows that Miro is married to Lana?
What?
Does everybody know that? Is that a fact?
I feel like that's pretty like well known, but
they just burned someone. Oh, that wasn't AEW. My bad.
Yeah. But
I thought Lana just divorced Bobby Lashley.
She did. That was the whole thing too.
And she's about to get back together with Liv Morgan because apparently they had a thing.
I will say this. Can I say this while we're speaking about marriage?
If it's about Miro and Lana having sex on that tank that they came out on that one time, everybody read that story.
Who? You talking to me?
No, that happened. I remember that story. Lana and Rusev. She told the story about they had sex on the tank that they.
Couple storylines. You know, you had on Dynamite last week. You had that vignette, that little commercial where Cody and Brandy get the knock on the door. They're doing their Christmas decorations and they get the gift and they open the gift and it's we're expecting in 2021. And then in the very next scene, you see Brandy escorting Cody down to the ring along with AA. And I kept thinking, it's like this whole time, it's like, please don't tie this future fatherhood into the story, man. Please don't do that. She don't need to be down there at ringside if this is really true. If it's not, it's kind of like the whole Drake Maverick thing. It'd be really tasteless. And of course, who shows up but Team Taz telling him they're going to send him on an early paternity leave. And I just didn't like seeing Brandy in harm's way and this and that. I hope that they don't take that too far. You know, be like, Cody, come on, man. We don't need that. You got the tattoo, bro. You got enough attention. We don't need you to draw this into
that tattoo, man.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and give this preview since we're here and we won't see you guys again until Sunday, probably. SmackDown on Friday is a Christmas Day edition, and it's already been taped in the Thunderdome on Tuesday night. Sorry, I got sidetracked.
Our chat's picked up.
Oh man. Anyway, I won't give you the results of anything, but I will tell you that Roman Reigns defeated. No, it just did.
No spoilers, Gary. God.
Oh, if you don't want to know that,
I'm not going to spoil it for you, but
Don't
this
speak
is
up.
what happens.
Roman Reigns will take on Kevin Owens in a steel cage match.
Oh, man.
Who knows how that'll go?
Not I.
Asuka and Charlotte Flair will take on Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, and Bayley and Carmella in a triple threat elimination match. And there is a matchup for the Intercontinental title that is, Daniel Bryan is going to take on Jey Uso, by the way, and Big E is taking on Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship in a lumberjack match. So that's going to happen all on Friday. So very interesting. Thanks for joining us, Anushka Kasut. All right, I guess we're going to wrap this thing up. It's getting goofy now. We're going to see you guys on Sunday at least. Be back here. Hang out with us. Let's talk about wrestling. I didn't mean to say that in like a derogatory way, Will. I just wanted you to know. I know how he hates wrestling.
Wow.
Dr. Ray Tyler, it was good seeing you, brother. Rob, what were you saying? Sorry.
I was just saying that not only does he not like it, he's in fact offended by it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Merry Christmas to you all. Would Merry Christmas to you. I guess we won't see you guys before Christmas. So happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. It's good to see you all. And we'll see you on Sunday, getting ready for the new year coming up. We'll build to that. But we're going to do a whole stream of these things. Audi 5000G, Merry Christmas. Thank you, fellers. The pleasure was all yours, says Dr. Red. All right, anyway, you guys take care. We will see you soon. Till next time, you guys